The pain started during Sunday dinner at my daughter Lauren's house, a crushing sensation in my chest, radiating down my left arm. I'd felt this before. 30 years of practicing cardiology had taught me exactly what a heart attack felt like. Lauren, I managed, my voice tight. I need to go to the hospital. Now. My daughter looked up from her phone, annoyed. Mom, we just sat down to eat. Can it wait? No. I pressed my hand to my chest, feeling my heart rhythm become irregular. I'm having a heart attack. My son-in-law, Craig, actually laughed from across the table. Oh, here we go. The drama queen routine again. Craig, I'm serious. You're faking, he interrupted, cutting into his steak. Just like you faked that migraine to get out of my birthday party. Just like you faked being too tired to babysit last month. You just don't want to be here. I tried to stand, but the pain doubled me over. Lauren, please, call an ambulance. Mom, stop being dramatic. My daughter's voice was cold. You're embarrassing me in front of Craig's parents. Craig's father, Edward, nodded approvingly. Young people today need to learn respect. You can't just make up medical emergencies for attention. The pain was getting worse. My vision blurred at the edges. I fumbled for my phone in my purse, but my hands were shaking too badly. Look at her, Craig said to his parents. This is what I deal with. A mother-in-law who'll do anything for attention. Fake illnesses, manipulate situations, guilt-trip Lauren into catering to her every whim. I'm not faking, I gasped. I'm a cardiologist. I know what a heart attack feels like. Craig rolled his eyes. Right. A cardiologist. You're a receptionist at a medical office, Mom. Stop inflating your job title. Lauren touched his arm. She does work at a cardiology practice. Answering phones and filing paperwork, Craig finished. That doesn't make her a doctor. God, the delusions are getting worse. I finally got my phone out and managed to dial 911. My fingers were numb, and each breath felt like knives. 911, what's your emergency? Heart attack, I whispered. 1247 Oakwood Drive. Please hurry. Craig stood up, his face red with anger. Are you kidding me right now? You called 911? Do you have any idea how much an ambulance costs? How embarrassing this is. Sir, stay on the line, the dispatcher said through the speaker. Ma'am, can you tell me your symptoms? Crushing chest pain, left arm numbness, irregular heartbeat, shortness of breath. I recited the symptoms I'd taught medical students for 3 decades. Help is on the way. Do you have a history of heart disease? Family history. Father died at 62. I'm 67 now. Craig snatched the phone from my hand. Cancel the ambulance. She's faking. This is a prank call. Sir, I need you to return the phone to the patient. He hung up. Craig. Lauren looked shocked. What if she's really? She's not. Trust me, I know her game. She's jealous that we're happy, so she manufactures crises to get attention. He turned to me, his voice dripping with contempt. You want to go to the hospital? Drive yourself. I'm not wasting my Sunday on your theatrics. The room started spinning. I slid from my chair onto the floor, the pain in my chest now overwhelming. Craig's mother, Patricia, stepped over me to reach the dessert on the sideboard. Lauren dear, should we just continue dinner? The roast is getting cold. I think we should, Lauren said softly. Mom does this sometimes. She'll be fine in a few minutes. I lay on their dining room floor, struggling to breathe, watching my daughter and her husband continue eating while I potentially died 3 feet away. Then I heard sirens. Shit, Craig muttered. They're actually coming. This is going to cost a fortune. 2 paramedics rushed in, the Oakwood emergency response team I'd worked with countless times at Memorial Hospital. Dr. Morrison. The lead paramedic, Jake, dropped to his knees beside me. We got a cardiac emergency call. Didn't realize it was you. Craig's fork clattered against his plate. BP's dropping, Jake's partner Maria said, wrapping the cuff around my arm. Heart rate's erratic. Dr. Morrison, on a scale of 1 to 10. 8, I managed, maybe 9. Wake, Craig said slowly. Dr. Morrison? Jake was already radioing the hospital. We need a cardiac team ready. We're bringing in Dr. Helen Morrison, head of cardiology at Memorial. Suspected MI. Unstable rhythm. Head of cardiology? Lauren whispered. Maria had the EKG leads on me now. Definite ST elevation. This is a full-blown heart attack, Dr. Morrison. We need to move fast. I know, I said, my voice barely audible. STEMI protocol. Cath lab. Already called ahead. Dr. Patterson scrubbing in. Jake looked up at Craig with barely concealed disgust. Your family? I'm her son-in-law, Craig said weakly. You called 911 then? No, she did. And you are? Jake looked at Lauren. Her daughter. Maria's voice was ice. Her daughter who let her lie on the floor during a heart attack. They had me on the gurney now, moving fast. As they wheeled me toward the ambulance, I heard Jake speak quietly to Craig. Dr. Morrison is head of cardiology at Memorial Hospital. She's one of the top cardiologists in the state. She's performed over 3,000 cardiac procedures. She teaches at the medical school. She's published 73 papers on cardiovascular disease, and you thought she was faking a heart attack? The last thing I saw before they loaded me into the ambulance was Craig's face, completely drained of color. I woke up 18 hours later in the cardiac ICU. The surgery had gone well. 2 stents placed, no permanent damage if I was lucky. Dr. Patterson stood at the foot of my bed, reviewing my charts. Helen, you scared the hell out of everyone, he said. Another 20 minutes and we might have been having a very different conversation. I know. My voice was hoarse from the intubation. Your daughter's outside. She's been here all night, so has your son-in-law. He paused. Want me to send them away? Let them in. Lauren rushed in first, her eyes red and swollen from crying. Mom, oh my God, Mom. I'm okay, honey. You're not okay. You almost died. You almost died on my dining room floor, and I just sat there. She was sobbing now. What kind of monster am I? Craig stood in the doorway, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. Dr. Morrison, Come in, Craig. He approached the bed like he was walking to his own execution. I am so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know who you were. Would it have mattered? I asked quietly. If I were just a receptionist having a heart attack, would that have made it okay? He flinched. No, of course not. I just mean, you meant that you didn't realize I had status, power, importance. I looked at him steadily. But every human being having a medical emergency deserves help, Craig, regardless of their job title. Lauren sank into the chair beside my bed. Mom, why didn't you tell me? All these years I thought you were just, I don't know, a secretary or something. I tried to tell you, sweetheart. Multiple times. You were always too busy to listen. But head of cardiology? Teaching at the medical school? How did I not know? Because you stopped asking about my life around the time you met Craig. You stopped visiting the hospital. You stopped coming to my lectures. You created this version of me in your head, the lonely, dramatic widow desperate for attention, and you never questioned it. Craig cleared his throat. The hospital called. They want to know when you'll be back. They said the entire cardiology department is asking about you. They said you're supposed to keynote some national conference next month. The American College of Cardiology conference in Chicago, I confirmed. I'll probably have to cancel now. Dr. Morrison. Craig's voice shook. I need to tell you something. When the paramedics were loading you into the ambulance, I tried to refuse treatment on your behalf. I told them we weren't paying for it. Lauren gasped. Craig, no. Jake informed me that Dr. Morrison has full medical power of attorney over herself, that she's mentally competent, and that I had no legal authority. Then he told me that if you died because of the delay I caused, they'd report me to the police. He was crying now. I almost killed you because I was too arrogant to believe you. Yes, I said simply. You did. I don't know how to fix this. You can't, not immediately. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight, Craig. It's rebuilt through consistent action over time. Dr. Patterson spoke from the doorway. Helen, there's someone else here to see you. She's been waiting all night. A woman in her 60s entered, my administrative assistant Joyce. Behind her came Dr. Rachel Kim, my research partner. Then Dr. Michael Torres, my former resident who is now a surgeon. Then nurses, technicians, staff from all over the hospital. We heard what happened, Joyce said, her voice fierce. We wanted to make sure you knew, you're not alone. The whole department's been rotating shifts, Dr. Kim added. Nobody wanted you to wake up without friendly faces. Lauren stared at the growing crowd filling the ICU room. All these people, they all work with you. Some of them, I said. Some I taught. Some I mentored. Some I helped through difficult cases or personal crises over the years. A young woman pushed through the crowd. Dr. Alicia Mendez, one of my current residents. Dr. Morrison, I just want to say, you saved my life 3 years ago when I was a medical student. I was going to drop out. You convinced me to stay. I'm graduating this year because of you. I just saw your potential, Alicia. You see everyone's potential. That's who you are. Craig watched this procession of people, dozens of medical professionals who all shared stories of how I'd helped them, taught them, mentored them, believed in them. Finally, he spoke. Dr. Morrison, I need to ask you something. The night of my birthday party, when you said you had a migraine and couldn't come, I was performing emergency surgery on a 16-year-old girl. She'd been in a car accident. I spent 11 hours in the operating room saving her life. His face crumpled. And when you couldn't babies it last month? I was delivering the keynote address at the state medical conference on advances in minimally invasive cardiac surgery. There were 800 people in the audience. Lauren was crying again. Mom, all this time we thought you were just making excuses. We thought you didn't care about our lives. I cared very much, but I also had responsibilities to my patients, to my students, to the advancement of cardiac medicine. I paused. I tried to explain. You never listened. A hospital administrator entered the room. Dr. Morrison, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a situation. We have a complex case downstairs, a 62-year-old male with critical aortic stenosis. Dr. Patterson requested your consultation if you're able. I looked at my monitors, at my IV lines, at my daughter's shocked face. I can consult from here. Have them send up the scans. Helen, you just had a heart attack, Dr. Patterson protested. And I'm the best cardiologist in this hospital. That patient needs me. I smiled weakly. Besides, what else am I going to do? Lie here and watch TV. Within minutes, they'd set up a laptop at my bedside. I reviewed the scans, consulted with the surgical team, recommended a procedure approach. The whole time, Lauren and Craig watched silently. When I finished, Lauren spoke quietly. You're still working. From your hospital bed. Hours after almost dying. Isn't that what you showed me? When I needed help, genuine, life-threatening help, you left me on the floor because it was inconvenient, because I was interrupting dinner. Craig made a sound like he'd been punched. But here's the thing, I continued. I'm not angry. I'm sad. Sad that my own daughter knows so little about my life that she thought I'd fake a heart attack. Sad that my son-in-law values his Sunday dinner more than my life. Sad that it took me nearly dying for you to see me. How do we fix this? Lauren asked. Please, Mom, tell us how to fix this. You start by believing people when they tell you they need help. You start by listening instead of assuming. You start by recognizing that everyone's life has depth and value, not just the people who fit your narrative. Joyce spoke up from across the room. Dr. Morrison volunteers at the free clinic every Saturday. She's been doing it for 20 years. She paid for my son's college tuition when I couldn't afford it, one of the nurses added. Anonymously. I only found out by accident. She funded the hospital's cardiac research wing, Dr. Kim said. $2 million of her own money. We named it after her late husband, but the money came from her. Craig looked like he might be sick. All this time, I called you selfish. I said you only cared about yourself. You believed what you wanted to believe, I said. It was easier than acknowledging that I had a full, meaningful life that didn't revolve around you. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't change what happened, but actions might. What you do next, that's what matters. Dr. Patterson cleared his throat. Visiting hours are over and Dr. Morrison needs rest. Everyone out except immediate family. The crowd filed out, each person stopping to squeeze my hand, promise prayers, offer support. When only Lauren and Craig remained, the room felt very quiet. Mom, Lauren said finally, can I stay? Just sit here while you sleep? You don't have to. I want to. I need to. I need to be here for you the way you've always been there for everyone else. What about Craig's parents? They're probably waiting at your house. They can wait, Craig said firmly. Or they can leave. I don't care. You're more important. I must have looked surprised because he continued. My parents raised me to measure people by their status, their job titles, their bank accounts. You know what I realized tonight? They raised me to be exactly the kind of person who leaves someone on the floor during a heart attack. Craig. No, let me finish. I need to say this. I need to acknowledge what I did. What I am. He took a shaky breath. I'm the villain in this story. I'm the person who values a pot roast over a human life. Who cares more about being right than being kind? Who judges people based on what he thinks they are instead of listening to who they actually are? So change, I said simply. Be better. How? The same way I recovered from my husband's death. The same way I built my career. The same way anyone changes. I looked at both of them. One choice at a time, one action at a time, one moment of choosing kindness over ego, compassion over judgment, listening over assuming. Lauren took my hand. I want to know about your life, Mom. Really know. Not just the surface stuff. I want to hear about your research, your surgeries, your students, everything I missed. We have time for that, do we? Her voice broke. You almost died tonight. But I didn't. Modern medicine, remember? I have a few good years left in me yet. A nurse poked her head in. Dr. Morrison, your medications, and I really do need everyone out so you can rest. Can I come back tomorrow? Lauren asked. Visiting hours start at 8. I'll be here at 7:30, Lauren promised. Every day until you're discharged. After they left, I lay in the quiet ICU, listening to the monitors beep steadily. My chest ached. My arm was sore from the IV, but I was alive because I'd saved myself. I'd called 911 myself. I'd advocated for myself. I'd used my knowledge and authority to ensure I got the treatment I needed, despite my own family refusing to help. It was a sad realization, but also a powerful one. I'd spent 30 years teaching people to save lives. Tonight, I'd saved my own. And tomorrow, I'd start teaching my daughter something even more important. That every life has value. Every person deserves help. And status should never determine who we choose to save. My phone buzzed with a text from Lauren. I love you, Mom. I'm sorry it took almost losing you to remember how much. I typed back. I love you too, sweetheart. Tomorrow is a new day. Because it was. A new day to rebuild, to heal, to teach my daughter what really mattered. Not job titles or status or power, but showing up for people when they need you most. Even when it's inconvenient. Especially when it's inconvenient. That's when it matters most. The phone call came at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Sarah, I need you to take the kids. My sister Jennifer's voice was breathless and demanding, not asking but telling. I'm going to the hospital tomorrow for the birth. They'll need to stay with you for at least 2 weeks. I sat up in bed, trying to shake off sleep. Wait, what? Jennifer, it's almost midnight. 2 weeks, maybe 3, she continued as if I hadn't spoken. Depends on recovery. I'm having a C-section, and with 5 kids already, I need rest. You have that big house all to yourself, so it's perfect. Jennifer, I work from home. I have client meetings deadlines. So? You can work while watching them. They're not babies. Her tone was dismissive. Well, except for Tyler. He's 3, but the others can mostly take care of themselves. I took a deep breath. How old are the others again? Emma's 9, Jackson's 7, Olivia's 5, and Tyler's 3, she rattled off. Look, I don't have time for this. Brett's working double shifts and can't take time off. Mom and Dad are on that cruise. You're literally my only option. What about Brett's parents? They're too old. I'm not asking, Sarah. I'm telling you. I'll drop them off tomorrow at 8 a.m. Make sure you have groceries. Emma's allergic to shellfish. Jackson only eats chicken nuggets. Olivia's going through a phase where she screams if her food touches other food. And Tyler still needs pull-ups at night. My mind was reeling. Jennifer, I haven't agreed to this. 8 a.m. Don't make this difficult. You owe me anyway after I let you stay with me during your divorce. That was one weekend, and I paid you $500. Family helps family, Sarah. See you tomorrow. She hung up. I stared at my phone in disbelief. I immediately called her back. It rang twice, then went to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. I sent a text. Jennifer, we need to talk about this. I can't just drop everything for 2 or 3 weeks. I have work commitments. The message showed as delivered but not read. I didn't sleep well that night. At 7:52 a.m., my doorbell rang. I was still in my pajamas, coffee in hand, hoping that maybe Jennifer had come to her senses and wanted to actually discuss this like an adult. I opened the door to find 5 children standing on my porch, surrounded by suitcases and bags. Jennifer's minivan was already pulling out of my driveway. Wait, I shouted, running down the steps in my bare feet. Jennifer. She didn't stop. She didn't even slow down. The oldest girl, Emma, looked up at me with tired eyes. Mom said you were expecting us. I stood there in shock, my coffee growing cold in my hand, staring at 5 children I barely knew. I saw Jennifer maybe twice a year at family gatherings. I'd never been alone with her kids for more than an hour. Come inside, I finally said, ushering them into my house. Let me try to call your mom. I called Jennifer's number. It went straight to voicemail. I tried Brett's number, the same one I'd saved from their wedding 5 years ago. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. I tried Jennifer again, still voicemail. I sent texts. You can't just leave your kids without discussing this with me first. This is not okay, Jennifer. Call me back immediately. None of them delivered. The messages turned green. She blocked me. My sister had literally abandoned her children on my doorstep and blocked my number. Are you going to call Mom? Emma asked quietly. She was 9 but had the weary voice of someone much older. Your mom blocked my number, sweetie, I said, trying to keep my voice calm even though panic was rising in my chest. Do you have another way to reach her? Emma shook her head. She took our tablets before we left, said we wouldn't need them here. The 3-year-old, Tyler, started crying. I want Mommy. Olivia, the 5-year-old, immediately started screaming in response. Jackson sat on my couch and turned on the TV without asking, flipping through channels. This was a nightmare. I took a deep breath. Okay, Emma, can you help me get everyone settled while I make some phone calls? She nodded with the resignation of a child who'd been put in charge of her siblings too many times. I went into my office and closed the door. First, I called my parents. It went to voicemail. They were on a cruise ship somewhere in the Caribbean, probably without cell service. I left a message explaining the situation. Then I called Jennifer's husband Brett's workplace. I remembered he worked at Henderson Manufacturing from some Christmas card update. Henderson Manufacturing, how may a director call? Hi, I need to speak with Brett Morrison, please. It's a family emergency. One moment. After a pause, I'm sorry, but Brett Morrison is no longer employed with Henderson Manufacturing. He was let go 3 weeks ago. My stomach dropped. He was fired? I can't provide details about former employees. Is there anything else I can help you with? I hung up, my hands shaking. Jennifer had lied. Brett wasn't working double shifts. He'd been fired 3 weeks ago, and she hadn't told anyone in the family. I tried Jennifer's number one more time, still blocked. I sat in my office, listening to the chaos outside my door, Tyler crying, Olivia screaming about something, Jackson turning the TV volume up too loud. These children had been abandoned with me based on a lie, without my consent, and I had no way to reach their parents. I picked up my phone again and dialed a different number. Child Protective Services, how may I help you? I felt sick making that call. These were my nieces and nephews. But what choice did I have? I couldn't keep 5 children indefinitely without their parents' consent. I had no legal guardianship, no way to enroll them in school, take them to doctors, or make any decisions about their care. And more importantly, Jennifer had committed what the CPS worker on the phone called child abandonment. Ma'am, what you're describing is a crime, the woman on the phone said seriously. She left 5 children with you without your consent and has now cut off all communication. Yes, she told me last night she was going to the hospital for a scheduled C-section and needed me to watch them for 2 to 3 weeks. I tried to tell her I couldn't, but she hung up and blocked my number. Then she dropped them off at 8 this morning and drove away. And you have no way to contact her? None. Her phone is blocked. Her husband's old work number doesn't work. She told me he was working double shifts, but I found out he was fired 3 weeks ago. There was a pause. Ms. Martinez, I need you to understand that you're doing the right thing by calling. If you're unable to care for these children and the parents have abandoned them without consent, we need to intervene. Can you keep the children safe until a caseworker arrives? Yes, I said quietly. They're in my living room right now. Someone will be there within 2 hours. In the meantime, make sure they're fed and safe. Do not let them leave the property. After I hung up, I sat in my office for a long moment, feeling like the worst aunt in the world. But what was I supposed to do? Keep 5 children I hadn't agreed to watch, with no legal authority, no way to contact their parents, and no end date. I went back to the living room. Emma was trying to get Tyler to stop crying, while Olivia had escalated to a full tantrum about wanting her tablet. Jackson had found my kitchen and was pulling things out of the pantry. Everyone stop, I said loudly. They all froze, even Olivia mid-scream. Emma, thank you for trying to help with Tyler. Jackson, please put everything back in the pantry. We'll make breakfast together in a minute. Olivia, I don't have tablets here, but I do have coloring books. Would that help? Olivia sniffled and nodded. For the next hour and 45 minutes, I did my best. I made pancakes, which Jackson wouldn't eat because they weren't chicken nuggets. I set up coloring books for Olivia. I let Emma turn on a kids show for Tyler. I cleaned up 3 separate spills and broke up 2 arguments. I was exhausted, and it hadn't even been 3 hours. When the doorbell rang at 10:23 a.m., I felt both relieved and guilty. Children, stay in the living room, please, I said, opening the door to find a woman in her 40s with a kind face and a professional demeanor. Ms. Martinez? I'm Linda Chen from Child Protective Services. What followed was the most uncomfortable 2 hours of my life. Linda asked the children questions, gentle ones, appropriate for their ages. She asked me questions. She documented everything. The children appear healthy and well cared for, Linda said finally, speaking to me privately in my kitchen while another CPS worker supervised the kids. But you're right that this situation constitutes abandonment. You had no agreement to care for these children, and the mother has cut off all contact. What happens now? I asked. We'll continue trying to reach the parents. We'll check hospitals for any record of Jennifer Morrison being admitted. But in the meantime, the children will need to be placed in emergency foster care. All of them together? I asked, my heart breaking. We'll do our best, but finding a foster home that can take 5 children on short notice. She trailed off, and I understood. They'd probably be split up. Wait, I heard myself say. What if I agree to be their temporary placement? Just until you find their parents? Linda looked at me carefully. Ms. Martinez, you said you couldn't care for them. I said I hadn't agreed to care for them without notice or consent. I corrected. But if it's the difference between them being together or split up between strangers, I'll do it. Temporarily. Until Jennifer is found. It would require an emergency placement agreement, a home inspection, and you'd need to understand that if the parents aren't located within 72 hours, we'll need to pursue more formal arrangements. I understand. By 1:00 p.m., I had signed papers making me the emergency foster placement for my 5 nieces and nephews. Linda had inspected my home, provided me with emergency resources, and left with promises to update me daily on the search for Jennifer. The children were quiet after CPS left. Even Jackson had stopped his constant channel surfing. Are we going to live here now? Olivia asked in a small voice. For now, I said honestly, until we find your mom and dad. Mom's probably at the hospital having the baby, Emma said, but her voice was uncertain. She'll call soon. She always comes back. That phrase, she always comes back, made my stomach turn. How many times had Jennifer done something like this before? I spent the rest of the day setting up bedrooms. Emma and Olivia would share my guest room. Jackson would take my office. I'd work from the dining room. Tyler would sleep in a toddler bed in my room until I could get proper furniture. I ordered groceries online with every child-friendly food I could think of. By 8:00 p.m., all 5 children were bathed and in pajamas I'd bought during a quick Target run. They were settled in front of a movie, and I was in my kitchen trying not to cry into my wine glass when my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Sarah. It was Jennifer's voice, cold and angry. What the hell did you do? What did I do? I repeated incredulously. Jennifer, you abandoned your children on my doorstep and blocked my number. I didn't abandon them. I left them with family, and now I have CPS calling me, threatening to take my kids away. You left 5 children with me without my agreement, lied about your husband working, blocked all communication, and disappeared. My voice was rising. What did you think would happen? I thought you'd help me. I thought you'd be a good sister. Being a good sister doesn't mean accepting illegal child abandonment, Jennifer. You could go to jail for what you did. There was silence on the other end. Where are you? I demanded. Are you at the hospital? More silence. Jennifer, answer me. Did you even have the baby? I'm not pregnant, she finally whispered. I felt the world tilt. What? I'm not pregnant. I lied. Why? The word came out as a whisper. Because Brett lost his job and we're being evicted and I needed a break, okay? I needed to figure things out without 5 kids underfoot. I was going to come back. When? I demanded. In 2 weeks? 3? Were you ever going to tell me the truth? You have that big house. You have money. I thought. You thought you dumped your problems on me and disappear. I finished. Well, it's too late, Jennifer. CPS is involved now. If you want your kids back, you need to contact them immediately and work with their caseworker. They're safe with me for now, but you're going to have to prove you're a fit parent. This is your fault. No, I interrupted firmly. This is your fault. You made these choices. You abandoned your children. You lied. You blocked me. Now you deal with the consequences. I hung up before she could respond. That was 3 days ago. Jennifer did contact CPS. She's working with them now, going through parenting classes and proving she has stable housing. Brett got a new job. They're slowly getting their lives together. The kids are still with me. They'll probably be here another week while CPS processes everything. Last night, Emma helped me make dinner. Tyler has started calling me Aunt Sarah instead of just staring at me. Olivia taught me the proper way to arrange food on a plate so it doesn't touch. Jackson even ate something that wasn't chicken nuggets. I'm exhausted. My work has suffered. My house is chaos. But when I tucked them in last night and Tyler whispered, "I love you, Aunt Sarah," I realized something. Jennifer was wrong. I don't have to be a good sister by accepting abuse and manipulation. But I can be a good aunt by giving these kids stability when their own parents couldn't. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. You're not coming to the symposium, Rachel. I looked up from my laptop, where I'd been reviewing surgical data. What? David, we've had this plan for months. I bought a dress. I know, but I've been thinking. My husband loosened his tie, the Hermes one I'd bought him for his last promotion. These medical conferences are for networking. Serious professional development. You'll be bored. I'm a trauma surgeon, David. I think I can handle a cardiothoracic symposium. That's not what I mean. He poured himself a scotch, his back to me. You're distracting. The other doctors, they see a beautiful woman and they don't take me seriously. They think I brought my wife as arm candy instead of focusing on the medicine. I set down my laptop carefully. Distracting. It's a compliment. You're gorgeous, Rachel, but these events are competitive. I'm up for the fellowship at Memorial Hospital. I need people to see me as a serious surgeon, not as the guy who brought his hot wife to show off. I'm also a surgeon. A trauma surgeon at a community hospital. It's different. These are cardiothoracic specialists, researchers, department heads. The talks will be over your head anyway. No offense. You'd be more comfortable staying home. I stared at my husband of 7 years. Over my head. Look, I'm not saying you're not smart. You're great at what you do, fixing car accident victims, stabilizing gunshot wounds. But this is advanced cardiac research, innovative techniques, cutting-edge stuff you don't work with. Right, of course. I knew you'd understand. Besides, you can use the weekend to relax, get a massage, catch up on that Netflix show you like. He kissed my forehead. I'll bring you back something from the hotel gift shop. After he left, I sat in the silence of our expensive apartment, the one his salary barely covered while mine paid most of the bills, and opened my laptop. I pulled up the document I'd been working on for 18 months, the research study I'd conducted at my community hospital, analyzing a new technique for emergency cardiac repair in trauma situations. The technique that had saved 43 lives in the past year, the data showing a 47% improvement in survival rates for patients with penetrating cardiac injuries. The research David said would be over my head if discussed at a cardiothoracic conference. I opened the symposium website and looked at the submission deadline for research presentations. It had been extended. Submissions accepted until midnight tonight. I created a new email account under my maiden name, Dr. R. Foster. Then I submitted my research abstract. Novel Approach to Emergency Cardiac Repair in Penetrating Trauma, a retrospective analysis of 200 cases. If David thought I'd be too distracting at his symposium, I'd just have to attend as someone else. 3 weeks later, I received an email. Dear Dr. Foster, we are pleased to inform you that your abstract has been selected for oral presentation at the National Cardiothoracic Symposium. Your research shows exceptional promise, and we scheduled you for a prime slot on Saturday afternoon. I read it 3 times. They'd accepted my research, given me a speaking slot. On the same day, David would be attending. I didn't tell him. Instead, I registered under my maiden name, booked my own hotel room, and spent the next 2 months preparing the best presentation of my career. David never asked what I was doing with all my late nights at the hospital. He assumed I was working extra trauma shifts. He was too busy preparing his own poster presentation. a retrospective review of bypass surgeries that, honestly, wasn't particularly innovative. The morning of the symposium, David left at 6 a.m. in his best suit. "Don't wait up tonight," he said. "There's a networking dinner after the last session. All the big names will be there." "Have fun," I said from bed. I waited until he left, then put on my own suit, a sharp navy Armani I'd bought specifically for this. Professional, authoritative. Nothing distracting about it. I drove to the conference center separately, checked in as Dr. R. Foster, and reviewed my presentation slides one last time. At 2 p.m., I walked onto the stage in the main auditorium. The room held 400 people. I spotted David in the third row, sitting with colleagues from Memorial Hospital, the prestigious institution where he wanted his fellowship. He didn't recognize me at first. Why would he? His wife was supposed to be at home watching Netflix, not presenting groundbreaking cardiac research. "Good afternoon," I began, my voice steady. "I'm Dr. Rachel Foster, and I'm here to discuss a novel approach to emergency cardiac repair that's revolutionizing trauma surgery outcomes." I saw the moment David recognized my voice. His head snapped up, his face went white. I smiled and continued. For 40 minutes, I presented data that stunned the room: survival rates, technique modifications, video evidence of the procedure, and testimonials from patients who should have died but walked out of my hospital. The audience was silent, riveted. When I finished, the questions came rapid fire from the most respected cardiac surgeons in the country. Dr. Elizabeth Morrison from Johns Hopkins: "This is extraordinary work, Dr. Foster. Have you considered publishing?" "I'm currently in discussions with the Journal of Cardiac Surgery." Dr. Robert Chen from Massachusetts General: "What hospital are you affiliated with?" "Mercy Community Hospital. We're a level 1 trauma center, which gives us unique opportunities for this kind of research." Dr. James Patterson from Memorial Hospital: "David's dream institution. Dr. Foster, we'd very much like to speak with you about opportunities at Memorial. We're restructuring our trauma department and could use someone with your expertise." "I'd be happy to discuss that." The moderator finally ended the questions. As I walked off stage, I could feel David's eyes following me. I didn't look at him. Instead, I was surrounded by colleagues eager to discuss my research, exchange cards, and talk about collaboration opportunities. Dr. Patterson from Memorial pulled me aside. "Dr. Foster, I'm serious about Memorial. We're looking for a new chief of trauma surgery. Your research is exactly the innovative approach we need. Would you consider interviewing Chief of Trauma Surgery? It's a significant role: department head, research budget, teaching opportunities. 6 figures plus benefits." He handed me his card. "Call my office Monday. We'll set something up." Over his shoulder, I saw David standing alone, holding his poster presentation that no one had bothered to look at. I avoided David for the rest of the conference. I attended the networking dinner he'd mentioned, the one he said I'd be too distracted for. Except now, I was Dr. R. Foster, the trauma surgeon everyone wanted to meet. I spent the evening discussing research, fielding job offers, and establishing myself as an expert in cardiac trauma. David tried to approach me once. I was talking to Dr. Morrison from Johns Hopkins when he appeared at my elbow. "Rachel." "I'm sorry," I said coolly. "Do I know you?" His face flushed. "It's me, David, your husband." "Oh, David." I turned to Dr. Morrison. "Excuse me. This is my husband, Dr. David Bennett. He's a cardiothoracic surgeon at Riverside Medical." "The community hospital?" Dr. Morrison looked confused. "I thought you said." "I work at Mercy Community. David works at Riverside. Different hospitals." I smiled. "David, this is Dr. Elizabeth Morrison from Johns Hopkins. We've been discussing a potential research collaboration." David looked like he'd been punched. "You work at a community hospital. You told people." I told people the truth. "I'm a trauma surgeon who conducts research. You're the one who assumed trauma surgeons at community hospitals couldn't understand advanced cardiac concepts." I turned back to Dr. Morrison. "David was supposed to be networking today. How did your poster presentation go, honey?" No one really stopped by." "That's too bad. Well, don't let me keep you from networking. I know how important that is." He stood there for another moment, then walked away. Dr. Morrison watched him go. "Your husband seems surprised by your presentation." "He didn't know I was coming. He thought I'd be too distracted at a medical conference." Her eyebrows rose. "Too distracted. You're a trauma surgeon, with a medical degree from Stanford and a trauma fellowship from UCLA. But apparently, I'm distracting. I sipped my wine. He's going to be more distracted when I tell him I'm interviewing for Chief of Trauma Surgery at Memorial Hospital, the same hospital that just rejected his fellowship application. Dr. Morrison laughed. Oh, I like you. Let's definitely collaborate on that research. I didn't go home that night. I stayed in my hotel room, fielding emails from conference attendees, reviewing the job offer details Memorial Hospital had sent, and drafting my resignation letter from Mercy Community. David called 17 times. I ignored all of them. Finally, at midnight, he texted, "We need to talk. I'm in the lobby." I went downstairs in jeans and a t-shirt. He was still in his suit, rumpled now, looking exhausted. "Why didn't you tell me?" he demanded. "Tell you what? That I was conducting research? That I had data worth presenting? That I'm not just some trauma surgeon who fixes car accident victims?" "That's not what I mean." "That's exactly what you meant, David. You told me this conference would be over my head. That I'd be distracting. That I should stay home and watch Netflix while you did the real medicine." "I was trying to protect my professional image. By hiding your wife because you thought having a beautiful woman would make people take you less seriously. That's not protection, David. That's insecurity masquerading as strategy." He sank into a chair. "Memorial Hospital offered you Chief of Trauma Surgery." "They did. I applied for a fellowship there. They rejected me. Said my research wasn't innovative enough." "I know," Dr. Patterson told me. "And you're going to take it? The job I wanted?" "I'm considering it. It's an excellent opportunity. Department head, research budget, exactly the kind of serious professional development you said I couldn't handle." "Rachel, please. This is humiliating. Everyone at the conference is talking about it. How Dr. Bennett's wife turned out to be the star presenter. How the trauma surgeon from the community hospital showed up all the cardiac specialists. I didn't mean to humiliate you." "Then why did you do it?" I looked at my husband, the man I'd supported through residency, through fellowship, through every professional milestone. The man who just told me I was too distracting and too stupid to attend his conference. Because I got tired of being invisible. "You've introduced me as my wife, Rachel, for 7 years. Never as Dr. Rachel Bennett. Never as your colleague. Just your beautiful, distracting wife who works at a community hospital. You could have told me about your research." "I tried. Multiple times. You changed the subject. You said trauma research wasn't as important as cardiac surgery. You made it clear that your career mattered and mine was just a job." "That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you asked about my work? About my patients? About anything I was doing professionally?" I stood up. "You know what the worst part is? I almost didn't submit that abstract. I almost let you convince me I wasn't good enough. That my work wasn't important enough. That I should stay home and be decorative while you did the real medicine." "I never said that. You said it every time you dismissed my career. Every time you introduced me as just your wife. Every time you chose to hide me instead of stand beside me." I walked toward the elevator. "I'm taking the job at Memorial, David. I'm accepting the chief position, and I'm filing for divorce." "Divorce?" "Rachel, no. You married a doctor, David. But you wanted a trophy wife. You can't have both. And I'm done trying to be less than I am just to make you comfortable." 6 months later, I started my position as Chief of Trauma Surgery at Memorial Hospital. My research paper was published in the Journal of Cardiac Surgery, with a feature article in JAMA. I was invited to speak at conferences around the country. Free hospitals tried to recruit me away from Memorial with increasingly generous offers. And David? David was still at Riverside Medical, still doing routine cardiac surgeries, still trying to build a reputation on work that wasn't innovative enough to stand out. I heard through colleagues that he tried to claim credit for inspiring my research, that he told people at Riverside he'd encouraged my academic pursuits. No one believed him. One afternoon, I was in my new office, corner suite, view of the city, my name on the door, Dr. Rachel Foster Bennett, Chief of Trauma Surgery, and my assistant buzzed. "Dr. Foster Bennett, Dr. David Bennett is here. He doesn't have an appointment, but he says it's personal." I considered sending him away, then said, "Send him in." David looked smaller somehow, older. He stood in my doorway, looking at my diplomas on the wall, my published papers framed and mounted, my awards already accumulating. "Impressive office," he said. "Thank you. I read your paper. In JAMA. It's brilliant, Rachel. Truly groundbreaking. I appreciate that. I was an idiot. I didn't see what I had. I was so focused on my own career that I couldn't see yours. No. You saw it. You just decided it wasn't as important as yours. He nodded slowly. The divorce papers arrived yesterday. I hope you'll sign them without contest. I will. You deserve better than what I gave you. He turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Sorry I called you distracting. Sorry I told you to stay home. Sorry I made you feel like you had to hide who you were. I don't need your apology, David. I needed your respect. 7 years ago, when it mattered. After you left, I turned back to my computer. I had surgery in an hour, a complex cardiac trauma that would have been considered over my head by my ex-husband. I pulled up the patient files, reviewed the imaging, and prepared my approach. And I smiled, because I wasn't distracting anymore. I was distinguished. I wasn't over my head. I was running the department. And I wasn't the beautiful trophy wife who should have stayed home. I was Dr. Rachel Foster Bennett, Chief of Trauma Surgery, published researcher, and living proof that the only thing more dangerous than a distracting woman is the one you underestimate. David learned that lesson too late. But every surgeon who reads my papers learns it just in time. I was running 15 minutes early to my parents' house for Sunday dinner. Traffic had been lighter than expected, and I'd finished my errands faster than planned. As I pulled into the circular driveway of the sprawling colonial home where I'd grown up, I noticed all the cars were already there. My brother David's Mercedes, my sister Michelle's Range Rover, even my brother-in-law Tom's Tesla. Good, I thought. Maybe we actually start dinner on time for once. I let myself in quietly through the front door, not wanting to startle anyone. The smell of Mom's famous pot roast filled the air, blending with the sound of voices coming from the dining room. I was about to call out a greeting when I heard my own name. Honestly, I don't know why Emma even bothers coming to these dinners anymore. Michelle's voice carried clearly through the hallway. I froze, my hand still on the doorknob. I mean, what does she contribute? David added with a laugh. She shows up in those thrift store clothes, driving that embarrassing little car, never brings anything nice. And she's always so quiet. My mother's voice chimed in. My chest tightened. Just sits there with that little smile, like she's better than all of us. Better than us? Tom scoffed. She works at some tiny nonprofit making what, $30,000 a year. Meanwhile, we're all actually successful. I wish she'd just disappear from this family, Michelle said, her voice sharp and clear. Honestly, these dinners would be so much better without her bringing down the mood. Every time I look at her, I'm reminded of failure. There was a pause, and then my father's voice. Now, Michelle. No, Dad, she's right, David interrupted. Emma's the black sheep. Always has been. Remember when she dropped out of law school? Biggest disappointment of my life. And I wasn't even the one who did it. They all laughed, every single one of them. I stood in the hallway, my heart pounding, my face hot. I should leave. I should turn around, get back in my embarrassing little car, and never come back. That would be the healthy thing to do. But then something else stirred inside me, something calm and cold. I plastered a smile on my face, straightened my thrift store blouse, which was actually vintage Chanel, but they wouldn't know that, and walked into the dining room. Hi everyone, I said brightly. Sorry I'm a little early. Traffic was great. The conversation stopped abruptly. I watched the color drain from Michelle's face and saw David's eyes widen slightly. Mom recovered first, her society wife training kicking in. Emma, darling, we didn't hear you come in. She stood and kissed my cheek, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. We were just talking about the weather. It's a beautiful evening, I agreed, taking my usual seat at the far end of the table, the seat they always gave me, furthest from Dad's position of honor. That pot roast smells amazing, Mom. Dinner proceeded normally on the surface. They talked about David's latest business deal, Michelle's upcoming vacation to the Maldives, Tom's promotion at the law firm. I nodded, smiled, and asked polite questions, watching them relax as they realized I either hadn't heard or was too pathetic to react. And what about you, Emma? My father finally asked, the way someone might ask about the weather out of politeness. How's the nonprofit? It's wonderful, I said warmly. We're really making a difference in children's literacy rates. That's nice, Michelle said, her tone making it clear she thought it was anything but. Must be so fulfilling, working with the less fortunate, since you are one of them. David snorted into his wine glass. I just smiled. It really is fulfilling. Speaking of which, how's that townhouse working out for you, David? The one on Elm Street? He blinked, surprised I remembered. Fine. Why? Just curious. And Michelle, you're still in the Harbor View apartments, right? That corner unit? Yes. She looked at me suspiciously. Why are you asking about our homes? Oh, no reason, I said lightly. Just making conversation. Tom, your law firm is in the Morrison building downtown, isn't it? Fourth floor, he confirmed, looking confused. Emma, what's this about? Nothing at all, I assured them. I'm just taking an interest in your lives. Isn't that what family does? The conversation moved on, but I could feel their eyes on me occasionally, puzzled and slightly uneasy. Good. I left at 9, hugging everyone goodbye and thanking Mom for dinner. Michelle barely looked at me. David patted my shoulder with exaggerated sympathy. Hang in there, little sis, he said. Things will get better eventually. Maybe. I'm sure they will, I replied serenely. I drove home in my embarrassing little car, a carefully maintained 2015 Honda Civic that helped me maintain my cover, and went to bed early. I had a busy morning ahead. At 8:47 a.m. the next morning, my phone started ringing. It was David. I let it ring. 2 minutes later, Michelle called, then David again. Then a number I recognized as Tom's office line. Then my mother. I was in a meeting, so I let them all go to voicemail. Around 10:30, during my break, I finally listened to the messages. David's voice was panicked. Emma, I need you to call me back immediately. There's been some kind of mistake with my lease. They're saying, just call me back, please. Michelle's was shriller. What the hell is going on? My landlord just called and said the building was sold, and they're reviewing all leases, and I need to. Emma, if you know anything about this, call me now. Tom's was professional but strained. Emma, this is Tom. Our law firm just got notice that the Morrison building has a new owner, and they're terminating several leases, including ours. The letter was signed by someone named Emma Shen, and I thought, well, please call me. Mom's was confused and worried. Sweetheart, your brother and sister are very upset about something with their apartments. Do you know anything about this? Please call me back. I smiled at my phone and returned to my meeting. At noon, my phone rang again. This time it was my father, so I answered. Emma. His voice was tight. Your siblings seem to think you have something to do with their current housing and business situations. Do they? I asked mildly. Emma Chen, he said, using my full name the way he had when I was a child in trouble. What's going on? Why don't we have lunch, Dad? My treat. There's a nice place near your office. I don't have time for. Make time, I said, my voice still pleasant, but now carrying an edge of steel he'd never heard from me before. Trust me, you'll want to hear this. 1 o'clock at Marcelo's. I'll have a table waiting. I hung up before he could respond. Marcelo's was one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city. I bought it 3 years ago, along with the building it occupied. My father arrived at 1:03, looking irritated and worried in equal measure. Miss Chen, the host greeted me warmly. Your table is ready. Please follow me. My father's eyebrows rose slightly at the greeting, at the deference in the host's voice. We were seated at the best table, by the window overlooking the city. My father looked around, clearly recognizing the quality of the establishment, probably calculating what lunch here would cost. Emma, what is this about? He demanded as soon as we were alone. Your brother says he's being evicted. Michelle is hysterical. Tom's law firm is being forced to relocate, and they all seem to think you're involved somehow, which is ridiculous, but... It's not ridiculous, Dad. I opened my menu calmly. The salmon here is excellent, by the way. He stared at me. What are you talking about? I own the building David lives in, I said, as casually as if I were commenting on the weather. And Michelle's apartment complex, and the Morrison building where Tom's firm operates, among other properties. My father's face went through several expressions: confusion, disbelief, and finally something that looked like he thought I might be having a mental breakdown. Emma, that's not funny. I'm not joking. I pulled out my phone and showed him a document. See, Shen Property Holdings. That's my company. We have a portfolio of approximately $3.7 billion in real estate across the city. I've been building it for the past 8 years. He took my phone with shaking hands, scrolling through the documents, property deeds, corporate filings, financial statements. This can't be real, he whispered. It's very real. Remember when I dropped out of law school? Everyone was so disappointed in me, especially you. I met his eyes steadily. I dropped out because I'd already started making my first million in real estate investments. I realized I didn't need to be a lawyer. I could do something much bigger. But you work at a nonprofit. I volunteered at the nonprofit, I corrected. I don't take a salary. I don't need one. The embarrassing little car I drive, it's part of keeping a low profile. The thrift store clothes. Most of them cost more than Michelle's entire wardrobe, but they're understated enough that none of you noticed. My father looked like I'd slapped him. Why? He finally asked. Why hide all this? Because I wanted to see who you all really were, I said simply, without money or status coloring your perception of me. And last night I found out. I heard every word you all said before I walked into that dining room, about how you wished I'd disappear, how I was a failure, an embarrassment. His face went pale. Emma, we didn't mean. Yes, you did. My voice was firm but not cruel. You all meant exactly what you said. And that's fine. It hurts. But it's information. Now I know where I stand. So what, you're evicting your own siblings? Destroying Tom's business? I'm not evicting them, I corrected. I'm simply declining to renew David's lease because he's been subletting his second bedroom illegally for the past year. I'm reviewing Michelle's lease because she's broken several building policies. And I'm terminating Tom's firm's lease because they're 3 months behind on rent. Did you know that? His successful law firm is failing. My father closed his eyes. What do you want, Emma? I want you all to understand that success isn't just about what you show the world, I said quietly. I want David to learn that mocking others doesn't make him bigger. I want Michelle to realize that material possessions don't equal worth. I want Tom to face his business failures honestly instead of hiding behind expensive suits. And I want Mom to stop measuring her children's value by their social status. And me, he asked. What do you want from me? I want you to be my father again, I said, my voice finally showing a crack of emotion. Not a judge. Not a disappointed authority figure. Just my dad, the one who used to take me fishing before I was supposed to be someone important. His eyes were wet. I don't know if I can fix this. You can't fix them, I agreed. They have to fix themselves. But you can fix us, if you want to. We sat in silence for a moment. Then my father reached across the table and took my hand. I'm sorry, he said hoarsely. I'm so sorry, Emma. We've been terrible to you. Yes, I agreed. You have been. What happens now? I smiled, and this time it reached my eyes. Now, David gets to find a new apartment and maybe learn some humility. Michelle gets to understand that actions have consequences. Tom's firm gets relocated to one of my smaller buildings at a reduced rate, if he agrees to honest business practices and financial counseling. And you all get to decide if you want me in your lives as I actually am, not as who you wanted me to be. And Sunday dinners? He asked quietly. Those can continue, I said. But only if we're having them because we actually want to be together, not out of obligation. And only if I'm treated as an equal member of this family, not as the charity case you wish would disappear. My father nodded slowly. That's fair. More than fair. He paused. Can I tell your mother and siblings, or do you want to? Oh, they'll figure it out soon enough, I said with a slight smile. I imagine my phone has about 50 missed calls by now. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with yet another call from Michelle. You should probably answer that, my father said. Eventually, I replied. Right now, I'm having lunch with my dad. Everything else can wait. He smiled at me then, really smiled, for the first time in years. You know, he said, I'm proud of you, Emma. I should have said that a long time ago. Yes, I agreed. You should have, but I'm glad you're saying it now. We ordered lunch. The salmon really was excellent, and talked like we hadn't in years. About fishing and books and real things, not status or money or success. My phone kept buzzing. My family kept calling. But for the first time in 8 years, I felt like I was finally having dinner with someone who saw me. Not the failure they wanted to erase. Not the success story they could brag about. Just me. And that, I decided, was worth more than all the real estate in the world. Though owning most of the city certainly didn't hurt. I came home from my morning walk to find the locks changed. After 43 years of living in the same house, the Victorian estate my late husband built for us in 1982, I stood on my own porch, key in hand, unable to get inside. Margaret, my daughter-in-law, Vanessa, appeared at the door, her smile cold and triumphant. I was wondering when you'd notice. Vanessa, what's going on? Why won't my key work? Because this house is mine now. She leaned against the doorframe, blocking my entry. Daniel and I have decided it's time for you to move into a care facility. You're 70 years old. You can't manage a house this size anymore. I manage perfectly fine. Do you? Because Daniel's been telling me about your forgetfulness. How you leave the stove on. How you wander around confused. How you're becoming a danger to yourself. My blood ran cold. I've never left the stove on. I'm not confused. That's what people with dementia say, Margaret. They don't realize they're declining. Vanessa's voice dripped with false sympathy. We've already found you a lovely nursing home, Shady Pines. They have an opening next week. Shady Pines, that's a Medicaid facility. I don't need. It's what we can afford on Daniel's salary. Unless you'd like to contribute. Oh wait, you can't. You don't have any money, do you? I stared at her. My son's wife of 2 years, standing in my doorway, telling me I was being removed from my own home. Where's Daniel? At work. This was easier without him getting all emotional. He loves you, but he knows this is for the best. She straightened. Your things are packed. They're in the garage. You can pick them up anytime. We've already listed the house with a realtor. Should sell for about $2.8 million. Daniel and I will finally have the life we deserve. You can't sell my house. Daniel's house, actually. It passed to him when his father died. You've just been living here out of his generosity. She started to close the door. The nursing home can pick you up Wednesday at 9 a.m. Be ready. The door shut in my face. I stood there, shaking, my heart pounding. Then I walked to my car, the modest sedan I'd driven for 12 years, and drove to my lawyer's office. She did what? Robert Patterson had been my attorney for 30 years. He drafted my husband's will. He knew every detail of our estate planning, changed the locks, told me the house belongs to Daniel, said she's selling it and putting me in a Medicaid nursing home. Robert's face went purple. Margaret, did Daniel's father ever tell you about the trust? What trust? The family trust, the one he established when Daniel was born. Robert pulled out a thick file. Your husband was very specific. The house never actually transferred to Daniel. It went into a trust with you as the primary beneficiary for life. Daniel and Vanessa have been living there as your guests. But Vanessa said, Vanessa is either lying or ignorant. Probably both. He flipped through the pages. Here, the trust terms are clear. You retain full ownership rights until your death. The property only passes to Daniel after you're gone, and only if certain conditions are met. What conditions? That he hasn't tried to remove you from the property, that he's maintained a relationship with you, that he's demonstrated financial responsibility. Robert looked up. Changing the locks and forcing you out violates all 3 conditions. If Daniel proceeds with this, he forfeits his inheritance entirely. What happens then? The trust has alternate beneficiaries, your late husband's charity foundation, the local hospital, and the university scholarship fund he established. Robert smiled grimly. Daniel gets nothing, but he doesn't know. Vanessa must have convinced him. Then he needs to be informed. Quickly. Robert pulled out his phone. I'm calling him right now. And Margaret? There's something else you should know. The trust activates additional provisions on your 70th birthday. Which is next week, Thursday. He dialed Daniel's number. Your husband was very thorough, very protective. He knew someday you might face exactly this situation. Daniel showed up at my hotel room that evening. He looked terrible, pale, shaking, eyes red. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Didn't know what, Daniel? That Vanessa was lying. About the house. About the trust. About? He sank into a chair. About everything. Tell me. She told me the house was mine. That Dad left it to me. That you were just living there temporarily and it was time for you to move on. She said you were becoming forgetful, that you'd agreed to go to a care facility, that this was all your idea. And you believed her? I wanted to believe her. God help me, Mom. I wanted the house. I wanted the money from selling it. I wanted the life Vanessa kept talking about. Travel, luxury, freedom from financial stress. He looked at me with broken eyes. I convinced myself you'd be happier in a nursing home, that you were too old to manage the estate, that this was what was best for everyone. But it wasn't best for me. No, it was greedy and selfish and cruel. And I almost went along with it. He pulled out his phone. Your lawyer called me, explained the trust, explained what I was about to lose, not just the inheritance, but you, my mother, the only parent I have left. What did Vanessa say when you told her? She didn't believe me at first. Then she called me stupid for not checking the will sooner. Then she said we should contest the trust. Claim you're incompetent and force a sale anyway. His voice broke. Mom, I married a monster. What are you going to do? Whatever it takes to fix this. Whatever you need me to do. Thursday morning, my 70th birthday. We gathered at Robert Patterson's office. Me, Daniel, Vanessa, and Robert's entire legal team. Vanessa looked confident, overdressed in designer clothes I suspected my son had paid for. Let's get this over with. We have showings scheduled this afternoon. There won't be any showings, Robert said. Mrs. Margaret Sullivan remains the primary beneficiary and sole decision-maker for the property. You have no legal right to sell it. But Daniel inherited. Daniel inherited nothing. The house is held in trust. Mrs. Sullivan has lifetime rights. Robert pulled out a document. However, today is Mrs. Sullivan's 70th birthday, and the trust contains special provisions that activate today. He slid the papers across the table. I read them, my hands trembling. Is this real? I whispered. Every word. Your husband set this up 30 years ago. He wanted to make sure you'd always be protected. I looked at Daniel. Did you know about this? Not until yesterday. Dad never told me. He was crying. He was smarter than I was. Vanessa grabbed the papers. As she read, her face went from confident to confused to horrified. This can't be legal. This is a $15 million trust fund, Robert said calmly. Established by Mr. Sullivan, managed by First National Bank, and activated on Mrs. Sullivan's 70th birthday. The principal has been invested and growing for 30 years. Current value, $15.3 million. $15 million? Vanessa's voice was a screech. The Victorian estate is valued at $2.8 million, but it's only a small part of Mrs. Sullivan's total assets. Her husband also left her stock portfolios, investment properties, and liquid assets. Total estate value, approximately $22 million. The room went silent. $22 million. Daniel stared at me. Mom, you're worth $22 million? I didn't know, I said honestly. Your father handled all the finances. He told me I'd be taken care of, but he never mentioned specific numbers. He also left very specific instructions, Robert continued. Mrs. Sullivan was to learn about the full extent of her wealth on her 70th birthday. He felt that any sooner she might be targeted by people seeking money. Any later, and she might not have enough time to enjoy it. My husband was a wise man, I said softly. He was indeed. Robert turned to Vanessa. Which brings us to your situation, Mrs. Sullivan. You attempted to fraudulently remove the primary beneficiary from her home. You changed the locks without authorization. You attempted to sell property you don't own. And according to these financial records Daniel provided, you've been systematically stealing from him, forging his signature on credit cards, emptying his savings account, and running up over $80,000 in debt in his name. Vanessa went white. Daniel, you gave me those cards. You said I could use them. For groceries and gas, Daniel said quietly. Not for $5,000 shopping trips and $15,000 spa vacations with your friends. You have two options, Robert said. Option 1. Criminal charges for fraud, identity theft, and attempted exploitation of an elderly person. Option 2. Sign these divorce papers immediately, leave the property with only your personal belongings, and never contact the Sullivan family again. You can't make me. Option 1 it is then. Robert picked up his phone. I'll call the district attorney. Wait. Vanessa looked panicked. What do I get if I sign? Nothing, I said. You get to stay out of prison. That's what you get. But I'm entitled to half of Daniel's assets in a divorce. Daniel has no assets, Robert said. He has $80,000 in debt that you created. If you divorce him, you're liable for half of that debt. If you go to trial, you'll be liable for all of it, plus restitution, plus possible prison time. Vanessa looked at Daniel desperately. Baby, you can't let them do this to me. I love you. We're a team. You tried to put my mother in a nursing home so you could steal her house, Daniel said flatly. We're not a team. We never were. Fine. Vanessa snatched the pen and signed the papers. But you're both going to regret this. I'll tell everyone what you did. I'll ruin your reputations. You'll do nothing, Robert said, because these documents include a non-disparagement clause. If you say anything negative about the Sullivan family to anyone, You'll be sued for breach of contract. Damages start at $100,000. Vanessa's hands shook as she finished signing. Can I at least get my clothes? You have 1 hour to collect your personal items from the estate. A deputy will escort you. Anything purchased with Daniel's credit card stays. After Vanessa left, escorted out by security, Daniel turned to me. Mom, I don't deserve your forgiveness. I don't deserve the inheritance. I don't deserve anything. You're right, you don't. I let him sit with that for a moment. But I'm going to give you a chance anyway. One chance. Anything. Move back into the house. Your old room. Pay rent. Market rate, $2,000 a month. Get a second job to pay off the debt Vanessa created. Go to therapy to understand why you were so easily manipulated. And rebuild our relationship from the ground up. What about the inheritance? We'll discuss that in 5 years. If you've proven yourself, if you've shown responsibility, integrity, and genuine remorse, we'll revisit the trust terms. But right now, you get nothing except a chance. That's more than fair. No, Daniel, it's more than you deserve. But your father loved you, and so do I. We just need to figure out if you love us back or if you only love what we can give you. 6 months later, I sat in my Victorian estate, the home my husband built, the home I'd almost lost, reviewing financial statements with my new investment advisor. The $15 million trust was now $16.2 million thanks to smart investments. The house had been appraised at $3.1 million. My total net worth was just over $24 million. Daniel lived in his childhood bedroom, paid rent on time, worked 2 jobs, and attended family therapy every week. He paid off $30,000 of Vanessa's debt. He had a long way to go, but he was trying. Vanessa, according to mutual friends, was living with her parents in Ohio, working at a call center, and very bitter about how things had turned out. I didn't feel bad for her. My phone rang. Robert Patterson. Margaret, I have news. Vanessa violated the non-disparagement clause. She's been posting on social media about how you stole her house and destroyed her marriage. What do you recommend? We sue for breach of contract, $100,000 in damages plus legal fees. I thought about it. About Vanessa's face when she told me, this house is mine now. About the nursing home she picked out, the cheapest, most depressing facility she could find. About how close I'd come to losing everything. Do it, I said, and Robert? Donate whatever we recover to the Alzheimer's Foundation, in my husband's name. He'd have liked that. He would. He always knew how to plan for the worst while hoping for the best. After the call, I walked through my house. Every room held memories. Every corner whispered stories of the life my husband and I had built. He protected me. Even from beyond the grave, he'd make sure I'd be safe. That I'd have choices. That I'd never be at someone's mercy. The trust fund hadn't just activated on my 70th birthday. It had activated my power. My autonomy. My ability to say no to people who thought I was weak, confused, and easy to control. Vanessa thought changing the locks would make the house hers. She never understood that ownership isn't about keys. It's about legal rights, smart planning, and having someone who loves you enough to protect you even after they're gone. My husband had given me that, and I'd made sure my son understood what he'd almost thrown away. The estate was mine. The trust was mine. The future was mine. And anyone who thought otherwise, they were about to learn a very expensive lesson.